Well, hello, DMV. It is Living on Music again here on ZTV. My name is Steve Houk, and wow, it has been a wild couple of weeks. I just got back from going across the country to see family and also see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We stopped it there. We went to Route 66 and did the whole old Route 66 thing, and It has been a wild couple of weeks, but it's great to be back here on Living on Music. We have an incredibly special guest tonight, and there are many ways I can describe my guest, and I will momentarily. What I want to do right off the top is give NIVA a shout, the National Independent Venues Association. They have hashtag Save Our Stages. This is an organization that has really come to bear and is really trying to push out support for venues across the country, from their own personnel and everything else. They really are looking for your help. There's a video right now. If you go to NIVA, NIVASSOC.org, there is a video that they've produced called "We're Running Out of Time to Save Your Stages and We Need Your Help." And it is really it's heartbreaking to see, but it also is motivating. I urge you after the show tonight to go to that website to not only watch this video and see what these venues are going through, but also go to Save Our Stages hashtag and put your name and email in. And they're trying to get people to petition to pass the Restart Act, which really helps these venues. And we aren't talking about just music venues. We're talking about theaters. We're talking about the Tour of Hamilton, if it comes back, might not be able to come. We're talking about comedy clubs. We're talking about classical venues. This is a really important thing. So I'm really urging you to go to NIVASSOC.org and really help support this, because it's coming down to the wire here in 2020. So please do. Also, the After Dark Fund is another thing that I love promoting here. If you go to the After Dark Fund on Facebook, this is a local organization and a local group that is giving money and helping finance musicians and artists in this area. And all you do is you go and you can either PayPal or you can get some swag. They have some cool shirts that say "Save the Music" or things like that about After Dark Fund. Please go and check out that website and Facebook page. And also it is a Snap merch, and you can go right in and help them. So that's another big one. And also Live DMV Music on Facebook. That is where you can see some of these great local artists of all sorts: rock, soul, R&B, classical, bluegrass, a cappella. Everybody is doing this stuff, and it really gives them a chance to perform virtually right now. Places are opening slowly, but come on, if you feel like I do, this thing is not going away right now. We cannot open up too quickly. So virtually is what we're doing to try to help a lot of people. If you look behind me in my virtual venue world, which I do every week here on Living on Music, you'll see what is called The Secret Garden. Now, I'm a Springsteen fan, and there's an amazing song that he did in the late 90s called Secret Garden. That's not this. This is at the Rectory on Princess Street in Alexandria, and it is the home of some of the most outstanding live music that this area has seen in a long time. And it wasn't even something that was necessarily going to be until the pandemic. But what this place is, it is the home of one of the world's most revered music-based organizations, which is Classical Movements. And my special guest tonight is the founder and the president. Not only is Classical Movements a premier concert tour company for the world's greatest orchestras and choral groups, but it's a lot more than that. They create these meaningful cultural experiences through music, and they've done so, and get this, all over the world. 145 countries is where they are known across the world. It was founded in 1992, and my guest and I will talk a little bit about their past, but also about their present, how they've created a live music kind of complement going on in the area, and also online with some incredibly special festivals coming up. I am extremely happy and honored to welcome as my guest tonight the founder and president of Classical Movements, Neeta Helms. Neeta, hello.
Hello, Steve.
How are you?
I'm terrific. I've just gone through one of the passages of life that every parent, you know,
Right.
works towards, I guess
Right.
you can
And
say.
and
Yes.
that when that was, yeah. I know what it was, but tell these folks what you've been doing for the last 24 hours.
Well, I just moved our younger son into his
Oh,
college dorm.
oh my gosh.
And it's quite, it's emotional for sure.
I bet
And
it is.
especially if it's the younger one, because you think, that's the last, and now he's on his way, and he always seems like a baby to you, and
Right. Oh,
now
yes.
he's off, and
Yes.
and that's what you work for, and that's what you want. You want them to be on their own and to be as independent as he is,
Right. And
but
I
it's
remember
it's hard to let them go.
It is. My two kids, I've gone through that as well, and my daughter is about to start college in the fall, and right now in Florida, and we're trying to deal with where she's going to end up, kind of living and being. You and I talked and with Johan about you doing the show a few weeks ago, and I knew this was coming. So again, I'm so excited for you, and so honored and excited that you would actually do the show live from South Carolina, where you are inducting your son or helping him get settled in college. So thank you so much. Classical Movements itself, yes, a prominent premier music tour company around the world. Right now, though, things are quiet, things are staid, things are down. Tell me a little bit about what life has been for Classical Movements during this last 5 months. And then, of course, we'll touch on a couple of the things that are going on right now with you as you've put some silver lining into the cloud of the pandemic for Classical Movements and music.
Yes. I mean, so, if you're in the travel business, it's the worst hit industry in the world.
Right.
And if you're in the concert business, then it's probably the worst or the second worst right after travel. And that's what we do. We're in both those industries. We take the world's great symphony orchestras and choirs on tour, and both choirs and orchestras are extremely they're endangered at the moment because of numerous stories. COVID spreads through droplets and aerosols, and that's what wind and brass instruments and choirs and singers do. So it's been very tough. I mean, we're fortunately quite a successful company. We always have really been fortunate in our amazing clients and being profitable every year. So this is very unexpected. We thought that we were doing all the right things by working with choirs and orchestras, youth and amateur, as well as professional. We have our own festivals. We have so many varied countries that in the past, if there was Ebola in one country, you still could go to the rest of the world. If there was MERS or SARS, but this has hit everyone. And we don't by any means say that we're the only ones hit, but all our tours are canceled for this year.
Do you get a sense, Neeta, of the pain that these musicians and these choral groups are feeling? Because I know the musicians around here that I've talked to, and also my friends that are national musicians, are really hurting right now to not be able to get out and play.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's heartbreaking actually for them and to see them and to hear from them, and which is why one of the reasons why we decided to do one of the things you want to talk about that's very Alexandria based, like you are in this area. And so it's what they train for. I mean, this is a high level of training. It's like a doctor and can't practice medicine and such. So it's very heartbreaking for them. And it is their livelihood. I mean, the reality is that even the most famous artists are not paid unless they perform.
Right.
Except a few orchestras that have the full salaries. Even the superstars in the world, if they're not performing, they don't get paid.
Exactly.
And so it's really a crushing financial blow, but more terrible, I believe, for them is not being able to perform for live audiences. I think the world's been great with Zoom and, performing virtually, but it's just not the same thing.
No, it's not at all. We were out at Red Rocks, the amazing Red Rocks Amphitheater out in Colorado this week, and I was supposed to see a concert, and it was, they at least opened it up to people to be able to go walk around and see it, and so we got to experience it. But I mean, myself, I've missed 6 concerts in August alone, about 12 gigs, so it started. But I understand that. We're going to talk a little bit about what Classical Movements has adapted to during this pandemic and got, because your tour world is sitting dormant for the moment. I wanted to talk just a little bit about this organization. You began it years ago as Blue Heart Travel, and then it adapted into Classical Movements. Give us a little bit of a nutshell kind of evolution at the beginning, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the things like these grand venues that you've done, but also the deeper end of Classical Movements, which is to collaborate and join cultures in music, is really what you're all about.
Well, thank you. Yes, so we are 28 years old. And yes, we did start as Blue Heart, and as a result, I have all these collections of Blue Hearts all over,
right,
from all over the world. Yes, And we started off because the Soviet Union was collapsing, and we saw this as an opportunity to take Americans to the Soviet Union. And then it became Russia and Ukraine, and all of these countries fell apart. But mostly we were attracted to the culture. And if you study classical music, like my family, we were brought up, musical, singing and playing piano, etc., all our lives. Then Rachmaninoff, Tchaikovsky, Rimsky-Korsakov. I mean, these were the greats, and you read your Tolstoy or Pushkin, etc. So it was an amazing opportunity we saw, and we were super successful. We hit we announced tours to Russia, deeply cultural, at a time when it seemed the whole of the US had been burning to go for 50 years. And so we just took off, and all that culture, and within the first year, the National Symphony Orchestra went to Russia with the Choral Arts Society of Washington. They contacted us, we took them. And then from there, more and more musical groups asked us to take them on tour. And it was my first love. And so we were rapidly adding countries on one hand, but on the other hand, we were also adding clients. And so from starting as a company that took people on cultural tours to countries that people didn't often go on their own, like Vietnam or Cuba or Turkey or South Africa in 94 when Mandela just got elected, we ended up very fast taking orchestras and choirs on tour. So that's what we've been doing. In fact, exclusively since the year 2000, we've had only musical groups as clients.
Right. And you've done some I mean, from a venue standpoint, you don't get better. And David will see this in the list. There are places like, Carnegie Hall that you cannot really do much better with. Places like, again, across the world, there have been venues like Buenos Aires. Talk a little bit about some of these, how some of these places have evolved and what some of your kind of more popular and favorite venues are that some of these places have played over those years.
So it's a mix. The whole world in general aspires to go to Carnegie Hall or to go to the BBC Proms Festival, the Royal Albert Hall, the Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires, or the Berlin Philharmonie, and on and on. There's these great, nothing can ever touch them in terms of history and reputation and what they stand for, the epitome of the classical music world. And we love doing that. We do a lot of that, sometimes on our own and taking people there, and sometimes because orchestras are performing there, and then we arrange all their travel. But I'm deeply attracted to lots of other places, and I especially like doing places that people don't go to. I feel that they're overlooked. I feel that they are rich with blessings of another kind, that they actually leave the artist a better person and richer than they were, that it's not just about playing for people. I think for me, just performing for an audience and leaving is can be satisfying and maybe thrilling. But on the other hand, I think that when they share themselves and their music and their culture and they learn from the local cultures, people all over the world are better. And we get great joy out of doing that. It's very hard work. If you want to do it properly and you want to do it well, and you don't want to just go there and gape at people like going to a zoo, you need to know people in those countries, and you need to know them well, and they need to trust you, and you must really know what's a good match. There should never be inequality in those settings.
Right. And there's a phrase, Neeta, that you guys use on your website called cultural diplomacy.
Yes.
That seems to be a mantra of classical movements in this kind of hemisphere.
Yeah, it is, because we've had all kinds of presidents, and we've gone to war in places like Iraq, for example, recently in my time, and that wasn't popular, and people have been very angry, but they've never been against American musicians. So we feel like we have been in this wonderful position to take America's great artists and do things that the government can't do. And we're greeted as friends. People know the difference between us and as artists and performers. And so it's been Very important to do. Having said that, we as a company have always reached out to American embassies and ambassadors all over the world, especially when we go to countries that are called third world or developing,
Right,
because we do their work for them. I mean, this is this is, we actually literally arrive there and do something at the highest level.
right,
And they love it. I mean, it's a gift. And not just me, I mean the artists as well. We just show the way, or we know the people, or know how to make sure that it goes well.
right.
Um, but that's what we're very interested in. I love doing things that if somebody says something can't be done, then I feel like we really need
Right. Well,
to
and
check out why and really prove maybe it should be done.
right. I mean, there's a couple of things that have stood out to me as we've talked and had some research about what you have done. There was in 2010 the Philadelphia Boys Choir went to the Great Wall of China. Now, what was behind that, and how did that come to be?
Well, we'd actually started working in China in 1995. And this was a time when actually people had stopped traveling there for a good 6 years because of Tiananmen Square. And so I mean, we weren't the first to go there. Of course, people started going there after Nixon. So but it was after a time when people were ignoring China. And it was really important for us to start there. We were very involved at that wonderful women's conference where Hillary Clinton made that famous speech, Women's
Right,
Rights are Human Rights.
right,
And we took about 900 people for that conference, which was not musical, but we were very involved. So we know China well, and China is relatively new to Western classical music.
right,
And when we started there, there'd be a couple of good concert halls, three or four, and they were opening. But like everything China has done in the last 20, 25 years, they're building concert halls and they've got new orchestras and new choirs. They're unstoppable in a way. And so they need artists and they want artists. So really way back in 98, 97, we were sending people to these places that were desperately thirsty, inquisitive, and interested in artists. So
right,
taking somebody in 2010 was something we'd already been doing for a while, but it meant that we could now do it so well, and we had these huge venues with 2,000 people, and everything was full. So
right.
it's that kind of thing that we've done a lot of development work. We've worked from the ground up with people. I mean, sometimes you get into situations, it's like, why? you know, but we're not missionaries, as I always tell everyone. God didn't speak to us and say, you must go there and do this. This is only because we have like-minded clients, because we see the joy, we see the great satisfaction. And now I feel really good, because in the beginning, people used to go there reluctantly, kicking and screaming and saying, why would I want to do that? Why would I go to
Right.
this orphanage? Or why would I want to sing for this retirement home? Or, all kinds of things. But now they want it. They really want it. And some of them feel they've invented that model. And I say, okay, fine. If you,
No,
you know,
exactly. I mean, and again, music is that common bond, and it is a common bond for all sorts of different things across the world. And to be able to use what you've been able to do, which is kind of establish your presence in the world, and then take it to that next level. You've also done some incredible things in India that we discussed a little bit about. One I thought was fascinating is the Yale and Juilliard musicians. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
So it's interesting you say India, because I was born in India and
Right,
started piano lessons at the age of 4, and my whole family is so musical. I do what I do because of my parents and my sister, my aunts.
right,
And I haven't had a chance to take as many people to India as I would like. And so we've done a little bit here and there, but it's been difficult because people want to go in summer, and that's a very tough time to go to India because of the monsoons that last, months of rain,
right,
and everything's closed. So it's sort of like Italy in August. It's most of the opera houses, everything is mostly people are gone. But we did take Yale University's Schola Cantorum, which is a very fine choir that they have,
I love it. My
and
parents,
they
my parents' alma mater. Yes, I love.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
So
proud.
we love Yale. Yale University is not just an Ivy League for everything else, but it is one of the greatest schools
Yeah,
for music in the
it is.
world.
It
And they
is.
have
Yes.
such a rich tradition. And we are we count ourselves so fortunate because we've taken numerous Yale ensembles on tour. And so this was the Yale Institute of Sacred Music. And then they invited the Juilliard 415, which is historical performance. So instruments, original instruments as they existed in, Handel or, the Baroque time. So this is really a very unique sound. So we took the orchestra from Juilliard and Yale. We arranged all the concerts. We went to the very same places that my dad used to, all the people that he was president of the Delhi School of Music and the Delhi Symphony Orchestra. It's lovely that there are few tiny population in India that love Western classical music, but growing rapidly. So I think it was very satisfying, but also because we'd been working for some time to teach teachers how to teach choral music in India. Everybody sings in India, and if you see a Bollywood movie, you know how kids love to sing, and everybody sings, and there's music and dancing. But there aren't any schools. There's no university courses for choirs or teaching people. So we started this other venture, and that's a little bit about what you saw. We wanted to help people who want to teach kids or teach classes for choirs. We wanted to help them. And so we started sending professors or teachers, people who just wanted to have the experience, go to India and help. And so we paid the airfare, we paid salaries, and we matched people up. So it was a great satisfying option, project.
Well, and it sounds like Neeta, as I become more familiar with you guys for the last couple of months, there is a real love of choral music and a cappella and that kind of music. I know that the Serenade DC Festival is something that's near and dear to you, has been for years, and now it's evolved because of what we're going through now, because of the pandemic, the inability to do in-person things. It's evolved into what we call Vox Virtual. Talk a little bit first about Serenade DC, the choral festival a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit about Vox as we get into that. But what is this choral music? Is it because it's something that's easier for people to kind of all gather and do together? Tell me a little bit about the evolution of choral music for you.
So Serenade, the Washington DC Choral Festival, is our fourth festival. We started one called Rhapsody in Prague and Salzburg in Vienna in 2002, and then Melodia in Argentina and Brazil in Rio de Janeiro and Buenos Aires. I mean, that's two amazing cities. Then Islombe in South Africa. And then in 2011, we started Serenade Washington DC Choral Festival. It was natural for us to do that, I think, long overdue, because we've taken people all over the world. And we have heard, because of taking people and arranging their concerts, so many incredible ensembles. You say Indonesia, or you say the Philippines, or you go to Cuba, or you go to Venezuela. I mean, name any country. There's so much choral music, all with original languages, rhythms, costumes, and their own styles. And so while Western classical music instrumental for a long time stayed very fixed, and every choir would aspire to sing Beethoven or Bach or Mozart and Handel, etc., choral music has evolved around the world. It's always people sing all their, thousands of years. But it is so interesting and it's so fascinating. So we felt that this was really important for us to bring international groups to Washington, D.C. and show Americans, because we met all these groups and we just love them. And we said, let people discover how fabulous they are and what a joy there is in singing together. So the whole premise of the festival is never just one choir in one concert. It's always multiple groups. People hear different, young, old, African or Asian or small groups, huge groups, every kind of group. And it's just such a celebration. And we always close the festival with a finale concert that features every one of the groups. We also started commissioning new music for the festival. So a lot of the groups had original music that fits with the theme. So in 2017, for example, the Kennedy Center invited us to come to their concert hall stage, which was a huge honor for us and for all the groups. And we collaborated with them. They co-presented. And then we celebrated John F. Kennedy Centennial. And that's why they invited us, because, of course, it's the Kennedy Center. And we commissioned 13 new works on celebrating JFK's life.
Oh,
And it was amazing. And so then they invited us the next year because we decided to do Mandela's Centennial. And
oh,
that festival in 2018, we had an ensemble from Holland and Iceland that loved what we did, met all these different groups, and saw this richness of workshops and learning all these cultures. We had a group from Madagascar, and we had a group from the Tuvan Republic,
oh,
of which is a little isolated autonomous region in Russia. I mean, people just, we can't even imagine what these places are like and the things they wear, or Mongolians that are not male throat singers, but women, which is not allowed, but now they do it, and that kind of
oh,
thing. So interesting. So they came to us about 2.5 months ago and said, none of us can sing, but we thought maybe we should all come together as a community and create something. And sort of like you do at Serenade, have a couple of different ensembles at each concert, and then maybe do this grand thing. And we wonder whether you'll help us, and what would you be interested in trying to help us? And they'd
right.
already gone very far. They'd done a lot of planning, invited several extremely interesting groups. So we jumped in, we actually joined in. So we're co-presenters. It's not typical for me to co-present, I usually, it's our thing. But we felt that this pandemic, the idea of bringing in groups from multiple countries and sharing our music, not just each one performing their concert on their Facebook pages, but everyone on all the pages, and inviting so many other groups. So I have to say that now we've got close to about 750,000 different individuals that are on
Oh,
different Facebook pages that are going to broadcast all the concerts. It's been a
oh,
massive effort. It's really exciting. Today we were on NPR, for example. They did a story on Vox Virtual at their
fabulous.
morning edition, which is, really quite a recognition. But we are partners in this, and so it's not it's for now, it's virtual. I mean, this virtual world is saving so much of us.
Right,
Will we do it again? I don't know. We'll have to see, but this is what we can do now.
right. And this begins this Saturday. And the general structure of this, and we're going to play a couple of clips from some of these incredible a cappella groups that you're going to have on during Vox Virtual. But how does it evolve? So it begins on Saturday and then goes through different performances. And then I know there's some workshops because I've signed up for one of the workshops for my singing. But yeah, tell me a little bit about the way the festival goes, and then we'll listen to a couple of clips from some of these amazing a cappella groups.
That would be great. So we are on from the 22nd of August with two ensembles singing together. And then we have 5 concerts over the course of that week, of 2 of each of the 10 in each concert. And there's a little bit of a conversation and like an interview, but lots of performance. It's pre-taped, a lot of it, but they're performances the groups have done, obviously, and all over the world. And it's a great discovery of what is behind so many unique ensembles. So
Yes.
we start, for example, um, with Cantus from Minnesota, as well as Armenia. These are ladies from Armenia that sing also with sign language. They're absolutely novel and interesting. And then Cantus is a male ensemble from Minnesota. So we have these 5 concerts and then a finale on the 29th of August with everyone. So
Wow.
that's that part of the live stream performances. And then each ensemble has created a workshop, all different, totally different. The Georgians, for example, Rustavi, who have a polyphony tradition that's over 2,000 years old. So, I mean, it's so extraordinary, it's so unique to Georgia. They will give a workshop on the history of that. Somebody else, like Anuna from Ireland, they compose, like founder composers. So he's unique and beautiful compositions. So he'll talk about composing and why he writes that way, and so on and so forth. There's a lot. The Insingizi group from Zimbabwe, they always have dance and music, and they have songs that come out of men working in the mines during apartheid and that history, longing to go home and such. So these are very interesting stories. And so they'll all be demonstrated. We had the idea that not just individuals will want to buy these workshops and discover these cultures, but also at a time when all universities and choirs are trying to figure out what they're going to do during rehearsals, when they can't quite get together. This is perfect. This is the perfect year, especially with Black Lives Matter and people waking up to the fact that they really need to be more aware. And
Yes.
This is a good time for everyone to, support these artists by buying their workshops. Basically, all these concerts are free. They're all shared free, but the workshops for nominal amount of money are available for purchase. And I can't recommend it more. And I think there's so many universities and choirs that are interested in that. So that's really the premise of the workshops. They'll be available for people for months on end, depending on when they
Right.
want.
And they can go to classicalmovements.com and find Vox Virtual, obviously.
Yes.
Let's cross a swath of some of the music a little bit. We're going to start just with about 30 seconds of accent. They are one of those, they have those jazz harmonies from Take Six. It's this wonderful kind of meshing of guys from all different places: USA, United Kingdom, Canada, Sweden. Maybe a couple of sentences about accent, and then we'll roll in about 30 to 45 seconds of them.
Absolutely. Unique group. They started off being in all kinds of countries. They're in multiple countries, cities in Europe and America. So they kind of been ahead of everyone. They've been singing virtually and long distance for a long time. We're learning how to do this now with all the ensembles and putting it together. And they are very creative. Their arrangements are second to none. They're very, very good.
Great. Let's take a little bit of a listen to the amazing world of accent.
Ba-dum boom boom, ba-dum boom boom, ba-ba-dum boom boom, ba-dum boom boom, ba-do-ba-dum boom boom. Get away, Jordan. Ba-dum boom boom, ba-dum dum. Get away, Jordan. Get away, Jordan. Get away. Jordan, I wanna cross over to see my Lord. Get away, Jordan.
Wow. I mean, you guys have a real sense of kind of that harmonious, it's almost, it follows the boy band type of sound, but boy band kind of trivializes the depth of them. But what an amazing cross section of that. You mentioned also, Neeta, Anuna. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
I know that's Michael McGlynn's construction. Tell me a little bit about Anuna before we hear a little of them.
So purity of sound and perfection in singing, so interesting. Michael McGlynn is absolutely unique in his writing of music, and he formed the ensemble, I think, basically to sing his beautiful music, and it's really made waves all over. Very fine group, extremely fine.
I've been captivated by all of this music. Let's listen to a little bit from Ireland of Anuna.
They figured out, but the numbers seem very bad.
Just just a wonderful group. God, the level of talent that you guys have been able to achieve over the years, not just for this, is just astounding. We talked a little bit about Isaac Cates and Ordained from the United States. What is the background of Isaac Cates? And before we play a little bit of their moment.
Yes, so Olga Vocal Ensemble is the group that came to us with this idea of Vox Virtual, and when they came to us, they had about 6 or 7 groups, and we felt, knowing our roots and such, we brought in. I felt that it was really important at that time that we have groups of color as well, and so beyond Armenia and Georgia, and so we brought in Nsingisi in Zimbabwe, and Philip from Olga, who was really he's the main behind Vox Virtual. Then I think made a big effort, decided that he should also look for another group that would speak to that world. And I believe it was Michael McGlynn of Anuna who told him about Isaac Cates. And it is an extraordinary group. They do a whole range of music, but they blew everybody's mind when they just say a runaway success with taking Mozart's Lacrimosa from his Requiem and taking the original and then changing it completely in its gospel form. And you'll hear that. It's quite spectacular.
Well, let's take a moment and enjoy a little bit of Isaac Cates and Ordained. Wow, and they are, they seem to have a little bit even more of a traditional flair feel than some of the other groups that I've seen. What a beautiful sound. Now the Olga Vocal Ensemble, again, is another powerful bunch of gentlemen. Tell a little bit about how they began and that the joy that they create is pretty extensive.
Absolutely. They are rather recent in terms of formation and very, very exciting group, really great arrangements again, and individually as well as together. They're from the Netherlands and from Iceland. And so we discovered them through another group called Wishful Singing from the Netherlands that we had at our festival some years ago. And they told them about us, and then they approached us. So we really enjoyed them. They have this iconic red kettle that they always bring to every concert, and everybody wonders about the kettle. But they really need guys. They've got their hearts in the right place. They're really splendid, and they fell in love with all the different groups that we had. And I think that stayed with them a little bit. I like to believe that. And they make great music, very professional. They look fabulous when they perform as well. They've got the neatest clothes and great music. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that kettle actually has a name of Kettle Olgelson. So they've actually named the kettle. I mean, what a cool thing. Let's take a moment and listen to a snippet of this incredible group called the Olga Vocal Ensemble that's going to be on Vox Virtual.
Thank you.
They asked me how I knew my true love was true, was true. I replied, something here inside cannot be denied. Someday
I know we're teasing people with the little tiny snippets of these folks, but that's the point, is to get people to come join you, starting on Saturday. I mean, I've spent more time than you would imagine watching these clips myself, and just have been so moved. I mean, what talent. And I know that there are countless groups across the world, but boy, have you wrangled some amazing ones. Now, the Swingles have been around for 50 years, and what an evolution with these folks now, and the way that they feel and their whole vibe. A little bit about the Swingles, Neeta, before we check them out.
So probably the most famous of all of the groups in the lineup, there's no doubt about the fact that they probably created what's the a cappella tradition now, in that sense of what people, when they say a cappella and they think of pentatonics and so on, it's definitely them. And they were just unbelievable what they did in the 60s now with John Swingle. And so I can tell you that, they came out with Bach. I mean, that was the whole point, that they had, traditional music like that, and they sang it in a new way, sort of like Isaac Cates is doing with Mozart. But it was just shocking, but beautiful and loved by everyone. I don't think people disagreed. Like, you hear about some of these people that break barriers and then everybody's complaining and then eventually they become celebrated. These guys were loved from the start. They're an extremely different group now, highly polished, still fabulous, but very, very, more modern. The repertoire is much more modern. They're not taking something that's 400 years old and rearranging it. They're taking much more contemporary stuff, but very innovative. They're the ones that everybody knows and credits for a cappella music.
And you can tell, and if we could roll, David, about a minute of these guys and let it go as long as you feel around that scope. There is a theatrical sense to these folks too. When this started out, it felt like a Broadway show. I'm a huge Broadway musical fan and aficionado, and I was like, this has a drama to it that's got some of that in it. But let's take a look right now at a little more of the Vox Virtual team that's going to be hitting your virtual waves on Saturday. This is a little bit of the Swingles.
How come I end up where I started? How come I end up where I went wrong? Won't take my eyes off the ball again. You reel me out, then you cut the string. How come I end up where I started? How come I end up where I went wrong? Won't take my eyes off the ball again. First you reel me out and then you cut the string.
You used to be alright. What happened? Did the cat get your tongue?
Oh man, they are something else. I mean, it is, they are really that more modern kind of sense. Well, look, we could be here for the next 2 hours playing the music of your festival. I mean, I would love it too, by the way. But there also are some quite traditional feels to some of the music too that are out there, right? There are some that really do delve back into traditional music.
Oh yes, of course. I mean, the Georgians, as I mentioned, Rustavi. I mean, that's Georgian polyphony. They've write some new songs, but mostly these are folk songs or religious in Georgian Orthodox traditions. They're so ancient, and they are celebrating something that country, it's a very ancient culture, has been doing for so long. So that's for sure. The group Les Itinérantes from France, 3 women. I mean, they sing another group that's so unique. Their costumes are so beautiful, and their settings are the most evocative. I mean, they really something. And they do a whole range of repertoire, as do all these groups. I mean, if you looked at Accent, or you looked at Olga, or you looked at Cantos, they'll sing some songs that are hundreds of years old, really traditional music too. They all mix a little bit of different styles, but they make it their own. I think that's what's so good about it, that everything sounds fresh and it's beautifully rehearsed, it's wonderfully recorded. And if I had to say Nsingisi from Zimbabwe, I mean, their tradition, it's not written music. So this is something that goes back hundreds of years. This is passed down generation to generation, sung from grandmoms to their children, fathers to their sons. Some of it is new, of course. It's like spirituals. It reflects suffering,
Yes.
or it was a way to disguise trauma that people were having and such. But a lot of it is just in their way of life, their village way of life. Whether it's a wedding or it's the crops, it's beautiful music. And they're special because they also always move in a certain way. Everything has movement in it, sometimes drumming as well. But they would never stand still and sing like that. They would never. I mean,
No.
it's just...
I watched this in Gizi too before at the beginning, and I was just like the scope of what you have created. And again, this is nothing new from a gathering standpoint and the quality of the musicians, but what you've been able to gather for Vox Virtual, again, that begins August 22nd. For everybody, make notes now, put reminders in your phone to go to. And do you go to classicalmovements.com, Neeta, or is there's a more direct way to?
There's also voxvirtual.is, like right. Iceland. Yes. Website /workshops, and so there's that, or you can go to classicalmovements.com and you'll find it as well. Of course.
Good. I'm sure you can. We talked a little bit about in the prep for the show, and actually even right before tonight, the fact that, again, Classical Movements from Blue Heart Travel, and again, I noticed the earrings. We've had people chiming in on the earrings, the Blue Hearts. How perfect is that? But from that part of your life and that part of your mission and goal and company, you've had to kind of, again, stand back a bit as people were adjusting to this last 5 months that we've never gone through in our lives. And you've created not only the Vox Virtual aspect that's taken Serenade DC and made it kind of an online phenomenon, and I know it's going to be too. But you've also created, as we talked about going into the show a little bit, you've created this wonderful live music vibe in Alexandria at the Secret Garden and the Rectory with the sounds of hope and harmony. And I think I want to be there in the next couple of weeks. I definitely want to come see a show. I can't wait. It's gotten a lot of hustle and bustle. It sounds wonderful. But not only have you done what you've done with some of these fabulous musicians, you've taken it another step on August 29th. An incredible collaboration with the Coalition for African Americans in the Performing Arts that's going to celebrate Martin Luther King's March on Washington. Give us a little background on how this part of Sounds of Hope and Harmony evolved, and what an incredible experience this is going to be for so many, I think, that are able to kind of be a part of it.
Yeah, so we have a building. Our offices are in a building from 1785. It was the rectory of Christ Church Cathedral, where George Washington went to church.
Right behind me, right?
Right behind you. And it had this garden. It was quite pleasant, but we have poured lots of energy and money into that and made it very beautiful. We built a stage. This is 6 years ago, and we always wanted to do concerts there and never had the time because we're so busy in summer taking people on tour. When this pandemic happened, we stopped going to the office. It's been empty now for 5 months, first time in 230 years. And so this building and this garden it's desolate except the garden, because the tulip magnolia would bloom, or there'd be birds and there'd be little nest eggs and things. And so we just saw hope, and we came up with this idea. And this was it was first an experiment. The Virginia governor said that you could gather with 50 people, and we decided on the 20th of June, 12 days after he announced that you could gather with 50 people, we said, socially distanced, we can do 50 people. And we decided to do 3 concerts, and we invited all the local orchestras. We had 31 musicians. We put them all in their own rooms inside the building, and we did these concerts. And we basically, it was such a success. It was huge news everywhere. And the artists were so happy and the audiences were so happy that we waited 3 weeks, made sure no one got sick and it was all perfect. And we were sure of it. I cannot even describe the pioneering and the thought and the planning and the worry. Oh my gosh. And making sure that no one would get sick. We were very, very careful with that. And so we decided to announce these other concerts, and we did. We announced 21 new concerts, or 18 new concerts for a total of 21, and they've been super successes. They reflect all our connections in opera and in choir, as well as orchestras. And then we decided 2 weeks ago, or 10 days ago, we felt we should do this concert on the 29th of August because it's the weekend of the March on Martin Luther King. This is the moment. And we felt we should have music from the march, and we should have new music, spirituals, anthems, music that speaks to the continued inequality and the struggle for freedom. So people will be, I think, overjoyed. I mean, Mahalia Jackson sang, Marian Anderson sang, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan. I mean, it was such an occasion. And so we reached out to the Coalition of African Americans, as you said, CAPA, but more importantly, I reached out to Morgan State University because we love them. We've taken them all over the world on tour. We presented one of their famous alums last weekend, Izakaya Savage. And so we asked him, give us someone who's just amazing. Like, you always produce all these great opera stars. That school is fantastic for that. And he gave us Alexandria Krishlau. She's just been Bess, as in Porgy and Bess, with the Philadelphia Orchestra and the Baltimore Symphony. So we have her. We have a fabulous baritone called Savoy McIlvaine. And then we have Lester Green on the piano and a narrator. And it's going to be a moving concert, I'm sure. That's August 29th, and you heard it first over here, more or less.
Well, again, gosh, man, that sounds just spectacular. And, it's this kind of passion that you have, Neeta, and all of you at Classical Movements have of kind of this diversity and the representative nature of music across the world that I think just takes you kind of above a lot of organizations. And you should be tremendously proud of what you're doing.
We love doing it. What a concert is something you do in concert with others. And so while we're not usually the performers, for me, the concert is the whole team. I mean, we have the most incredible team. Everybody's can do and they want to do it. And we have zero income right now. I would tell everybody zero income. We have no tours as such. But I will tell you that we are as busy as we could possibly be. We're doing all these amazing things, and it's very meaningful, small as it is.
Right.
We are somehow almost the biggest presenters in the country, almost, in terms of what we're doing, in terms of live concerts.
Right.
So and we feel that it's possible, and we must, and we should, and therefore we are.
Well, again, you should be tremendously proud and happy that you have been able to take this time, and everybody is trying to find ways from business standpoints, from personal standpoints, to try to fulfill certain aspects of their passion. And it seems like this is directly in line. It's called Sweet Songs of Sorrow and Joy on the 29th. You're going to continue to do shows after that. Neeta, I can't thank you enough for taking the time, especially after a morning with NPR. I'm really glad you got to close with us. It's an incredible honor to talk to you. I've been a huge fan, as I learned through the Zebra and through ZTV when my show started, to be able to talk to you and to work with Johan and to kind of get people to understand that this company has part of their business that is dormant, and part of their business is going through the roof with passion. And you've really done a beautiful job. So again, it's classicalmovements.com, or for the Vox Virtual, it's voxvirtual.is. Those are the two, I think, the main links right now. But Vox Virtual starts Saturday, goes for a week. It's going to be a really incredible online experience, especially if you go for the workshops, which are going to help the musicians as well. Neeta, thank you so much for being with us this evening, and continued success as you go through this. And then we'll get out of this, and you'll be back sending some of the great musicians all over the world as you've done.
Hopefully, all of us. to the
Yeah.
world in general. May everybody be safe and may this be over.
Yeah.
But thank
Exactly.
you so much. You all do great work.
Thank you. And we've, again, I'll be promoting and kind of following what Classical Movements has been doing, as I've been doing over the last 6 or 8, 8 or 9 weeks. God, the time just flies by. I keep trying to remember what day it is sometimes, but we will be continuing to let you know what's going on with Classical Movements. But again, August 29th in the Secret Garden at the Rectory on Princess Street in Alexandria. Please go see this show if you possibly can. If you are not able to, there are multiple other shows that you can go on and look at. Neeta, thank you again for making this time.
Thank you, Steve.
With Living on Music. Real quick, everybody, coming up on Living on Music in the next month, we have an incredible roster of folks coming on. On this Monday is Ron Newmeyer. Ron is the head of Bandhouse Gigs and Newmeyer Flyer. I was invited to sing one of the greatest moments of my life at the David Bowie tribute at the Fillmore in Silver Spring. Ron invited me to come up and sing with a number of the greatest musicians, some of which we've had on my show. And he also invited me to sing at the Elvis Costello tribute at the Barnes. And for a middle-aged kind of cover band rock singer to be able to sing at those venues, I have a huge debt to Ron. But that aside, what an incredible guy. We'll talk to him about Newmeyer Flyer and Bandhouse Gigs. On August 31st, Daryl Davis is an international recording artist. He is a published author, an actor, and leader of the Daryl Davis Band. He has played with, check it out, Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley's Jordanaires, Jerry Lee Lewis, Sam and Dave, the Drifters, the Coasters, Bo Diddley. This is one of the great musicians that this country has ever seen, let alone this area. We're going to talk to Daryl on the 31st. September 7th, well, an incredible artist named Cleve Francis is going to join us. Cleve was a 1990s and beyond country singer, and for an African-American, that is a big challenge to go into the country music world. I know Darius Rucker did it and succeeded, Charlie Pride, but not something that everybody has success at. Cleve did, and then chose another career, and we'll talk about that. And he's become a very successful cardiologist in the area, and but he plays the Birchmere every year to sold-out crowd. This was his 30th anniversary that we were supposed to do, and he asked me to sing backup. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to sing the Birchmere, and that got canceled. So that's another casualty of the pandemic. But Cleve Francis will join me. We'll talk about his career, his amazing choice between one career and the other, and also we'll listen to some of his music. And on September 14th, wow, it's Ruthie Logsdon. Ruthie is Ruthie and the Wranglers, one of the local bands that has been around forever. She is one of the staples of local music in this entire region. I had her keyboardist and solo artist Bill Starks on earlier in this run, and we have Ruthie on September 14th. So cannot wait for this next month on Living on Music. Monday nights at 7, it's live. Coming up this week real quick, tomorrow night at 7, Susan Fleischman welcomes Jennifer DiFilippo, who is from Artspire VA. They're a local organization that provides scholarships for youth to experience the fine, the performing arts, and really through dance performances kind of gets them to feel uplifted and heals and inspires. It's a great organization, Artspire Virginia. You'll see that tomorrow night at 7 with Susan. Wednesday at 7, a pretty intense show is going to be Jane Hess Collins hosts her 10 Questions show, and she's going to have 10 questions with Monica Huerta, who's from the city of Alexandria Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence Support Group. And that is going to be a very, very important show to watch to see what kinds of things local organizations are doing to help combat those things. And on Thursday, the Virginia Amos Show, Amy Sills Eggers welcomes, Virginia welcomes Amy Sills Eggers, and she is from the Delray Business Association. So a lot of you might know Amy, and she's also the founder of the Delray Vintage Flea Market. So she'll be talking again about what's going on with that during this time and how you can get some of those kind of involvements. Again, ZTV is here for you. We're talking to local organizations, local musicians, local music producers, and everything, and reminding you of the golden nature of this area in so many ways, and that's what ZTV does. Living on Music is, of course, a production of the Zebra Press. The executive producer of ZTV is the great David McClure. We thank him again for his wonderful guidance, and also the publisher is Mary Wadland. You can visit the Zebra at zebra.org online, and also on Facebook at the Good News Zebra Press Facebook page. One thing you should do is be sure you grab the latest edition of the Zebra. There's the August 2020 edition. You can get it online at zebra.org, or you can have it delivered via newspaper, and that's what I like, is paper in my hands in the morning. I read the Post. I was away for 2 weeks, and I probably read 6 versions of the Washington Post in the last 24 hours because I missed the cognizant nature of the newspaper. But that is the Zebra Press. You can have it delivered, so go to zebra.org and find out how you can have a solid piece of newspaper delivered, or you can go online at zebra.org. Once again, this Monday, the 24th, we will be welcoming the great Ron Newmeyer. I wanted to again, once again, thank the great Neeta Helms. What an amazing lady and an amazing organization. Vox Virtual, August 22nd through 29th, classicalmovements.com, voxvirtual.is. Once again, I'm Steve Houk, and remember, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, or the rest of the week, be the good in some life.